Well, let's go to the Liberal Senator and former diplomat and man of the world, really, Dave Sharma, for his thoughts on all of this. Dave, good to see you this morning. Whichever way you slice and dice it, and numbers will fluctuate over the coming hours, but it's not good for the Conservatives.
No, it seems like a landslide victory on the scale of 1997 in the UK when Tony Blair won. I think Keir Starmer looks on track to win a slightly smaller number of seats than Tony Blair won, but Rishi Sunak is on track to take the Conservatives to a worse result than they had in 1997. So it's undoubtedly a pretty strong rejection of them, and it's a strong mandate for Keir Starmer and UK Labor.
Keir Starmer, he ain't the most charismatic leader that's ever been, Dave. He ran a safe, small target campaign because that's all he needed to do. The Conservatives had 5 leaders in 14 years. So was this just a case of fatigue, that time was up, or was it something broader than that? Was it scandal? Was it policy?
Look, I think it was a mix of things. I don't think the Brexit project has worked out well for Britain, either in its conception or its execution, and that was obviously a Conservative project. But there's, of course, been a rotating door of Conservative leaders since that time as well. A lot of bickering and infighting, which I think voters have rejected. You're right to point out, though, that, look, Tony Blair was a charismatic individual who went to the 97 election with a pretty big and bold manifesto. Keir Starmer has taken on a small target approach, and that will present him challenges in governing because he hasn't sort of mandate for bold changes from the electorate. People know that Britain is struggling. Living standards have basically been flatlining since the global financial crisis. The NHS is in poor shape. Relations with Europe are not in good shape. A free trade agreement with the United States has not come about. But Keir Starmer hasn't really articulated solutions to a lot of those things. He's just said we're going to be more competent than the Conservatives, and that has clearly been enough to convince people to vote for him. But it means that the mandate or authority he's got to make radical changes is going to be pretty limited.
Yeah, I was talking to Alexander Downer and George Brandis about this a little earlier. What, if anything, does it mean for our relationship, Australia and the UK?
Look, I don't think it means a whole lot. I think the new Foreign Secretary, or the likely Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, is very well disposed to us. The UK Labor government's committed to staying in AUKUS. They're fully committed to AUKUS, for instance. I think they're quite Atlanticist in their orientation, which means they'll pursue a close relationship with the United States. I think our free trade agreement, there's been no talk of seeking to renegotiate or undo that. I think our main interest will be ensuring that Britain retains a global view of its role in the world. Is keen to keep a forward presence in the Asia-Pacific because we've certainly welcomed that over the last 10 years. And I think all the indications are that a UK Labor government will be more continuity than change in that respect. Yeah,
I guess we'll learn who the Foreign Secretary is going to be tomorrow as Keir Starmer gets the keys to number 10 and then sorts out his cabinet. Now, Nigel Farage, one of the biggest stories of the morning too. He had been expected to pick up 13. And while official 13 seats, that is, and while official counts are still underway, the exit polls point to 13 seats. So that's 10 above the 3, that was forecast. And we've just heard from Nigel Farage, some reaction. So let's take it. This is Nigel Farage.
It's midnight. There were 2 results in from the northeast of England that put Reform on 30% of the vote. That is way more than any possible prediction or projection. It's almost unbelievable. And what does it mean? It means we're going to win seats, many, many seats, I think, right now across the country. But to watch the TV coverage, it's almost comical. There's not a single representative on there from Reform UK. Mainstream media are in denial just as much as our political parties. This is going to be 6 million votes plus. This, folks, is huge.
It's a big topic of conversation for us, Nigel. Back to Dave. What are your thoughts on the rise of Reform UK? Remembering, Dave, that he started the campaign late. He only started 4 weeks ago. Remember, he was milkshaked on the day of announcing his campaign. Well, he's had a pretty big success today.
He has, and I think, look, the interesting thing to point out here is that 13 seats is obviously a big increase, but the share of the vote that Reform UK has got is considerably larger than that. And if Reform UK was in a preferential voting system like we've got in Australia, they would be having a considerably higher number of seats. There's a lot of seats we're seeing where they're finishing second to the Labor Party, Conservatives third, and in a preferential voting system, most of the Conservative votes will go to them and they would often win more seats. So I think they're obviously a political force to be reckoned with. They're not going to be the same force in the House of Commons as the share of the vote suggests, but obviously it's going to make life difficult for the Conservatives as they go about seeking to rebuild their party. Because there'll be people who are saying, look, reform ate our base, we need to be moving more towards reform. And then there'll be people who'll be saying, Labor took the centre ground from us, and that's where we need to be. And look, these discussions are going to be difficult and these debates are going to play out over some years, I expect.
I mean, he's going to have a big say in who the leader of the Conservative is. People might just view him as the Conservative leader, whichever way you spin it. I want to close with this question on the subject of Reform UK and this drift to the right, Dave. We've got the French elections, the second round in place on Sunday, and we've seen what happened to Marine Le Pen's party. We've seen what's happened in Italy. We've got this drift in Europe to the right now. Is it immigration? Is it going to continue? You got a thought on that?
I think it's just the natural pendulum swing of politics. I mean, we would have said there was a drift to the left, several years ago. Biden was elected. We changed governments here in Australia. There was a left of centre government elected in Germany. I think we're just seeing the pendulum swing, and it'll probably swing back again. It's healthy in democratic political systems to have different parties in charge.